So we just finished up this deck up in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. And there's a couple mistakes that we made on this deck that we had to fix that I want to tell you about. So you can either A, avoid the mistakes, or B, if you run into them, you know how we handled them. C, maybe you can just give us some pointers. But I'll get right into it. So the first thing we did that was wrong was on our stair stringers. For some reason, don't know why, the top step just was longer than the rest, and our gapping, you can see, is nice and consistent. But on this top step, we had a good 1/2 inch gap here, so it was just a 1/2 inch too wide. So we had to unattach the tap cons that attached it to our lentil beam down here, and we had to pop off the screws that were behind the fascia plate right now, pop off the stringers, take off the back plate, and we had to trim 5/8 of an inch off of each one of the stringers up top so that we could have the proper spacing. Put everything back together, had to drill a couple new holes into this lentil down here, and it fixed the problem. But that goes right into the second mistake we made, which was we actually originally forgot to put lag bolts to attach the stair plate on the back of the stringer to the rest of the substructure. We just had 2 structural screws in there. So if you can see, stringer right here, a plate that's on the back of the stringer, and then this plate attaches to the substructure of the deck. Just 2 structural screws in there. So we added some lags. That was an easy fix, but we would have never known about it if we didn't have to pop these off to trim them. So praise God for that. Third mistake we made is we cut all these boards on a 45-degree angle so that they would fit under the just right under the house there, so they could be on this diagonal 45 pattern. And we always checked all the tops of the boards to make sure there was no damage and to make sure we're cutting the right thing. But we checked, it was clean, we cut the board, and then we realized that on the edge of the board, like here, there was damage. And how we ended up doing that, if we would have not noticed the damage before, we could have returned it. But since we already cut it on this 45-degree angle, we couldn't return it. So we were like, what are we gonna do? Easy fix. The damage piece wasn't too bad, and we could use it for this bottom riser board right here. And we put the damage part down. Let's see if you can see the actual damage right here. But when the soil is pushed up and these rocks come back over this deck, I never even notice it. Fourth mistake we made is when we ordered our boards, we got a case of plugs, color match plugs that match this color decking, this Trek Saddle Brown. And we had another case of screws that I already had in the truck from the previous job. And that case of screws we were gonna return because we don't use the color a lot. It was a TimberTech brown oak. We went to return those, accidentally returned the plugs that we needed, so we didn't have any plugs here. It actually worked out because I actually went with color match screws instead of the plug system, which worked a lot better because of the thickness of this fascia. With the plug system, you gotta go in a good 3/4 of an inch and it wouldn't have caught on as tight. So kind of worked out. Solution for that, we just bought color match screws. Fifth mistake we made, we don't use this Trex brand railing a whole lot. We just don't like it because it doesn't give a good way to connect the rail to the post. There's no trim piece that goes here. Whatever your final cut is, it just has to fit in perfect. And it just takes a little bit more time, and I think it's not as clean of a final product. So what we did is didn't end up reading all the directions in these brackets here. They go on the bottom of this top rail and the bottom of this bottom rail, but we ended up putting it on the whole side on both of them. So the whole side here, boom, that's correct. We put it on the whole side here, which wasn't correct because you would have seen it from sitting on top of the deck. So all we did to fix that is we took this, it was actually this section right here. We took this section and we just moved it and put it on this shorter section over here so we could chop off our screw holes and still use what we needed. And the final mistake we made, which was the last one, which we noticed as we were putting up these stair sections, was that center post there was just out of plumb. You can see how these are all lined up. Well, that center post was leaning pretty hard this way. And this was after we had all the boards in and most of the railing up. Luckily, we didn't have our fascia on this side yet, so we were easily able to take out the lag bolts that were holding this post. I held it plumb. Josh put a shim in there. We shimmed it to where it was level and plumb, and then we screwed everything back together. So it was an easy fix, but just good to know, even if you set everything plumb and level, things can get out of level as you're working with other things. So you just always got to keep an eye out for what you're working with and what you got to fix along the way, even if you got to backtrack a little bit. But yeah, luckily we didn't have to backtrack too much. Really, it was still a pretty smooth job, even with those couple mistakes. But yeah, hopefully that helps you out, gives you a couple pointers, a couple tips, and shows you how we did some things. If this was helpful, like the video, subscribe to our channel to see more videos like this, and share it with a friend. We'll catch you guys on the next build. Peace out.